Let's set the LTV ventilator up for a patient on BiPAP. First, we should make sure that we have all the equipment needed. That would be your ventilator, a vent circuit, HEPA filter, oxygen cylinder with a quick connect, a CPAP mask in case our circuit isn't compatible with the patient's mask, and your heart monitor. Next, let's review some basics. CPAP is continuous positive airway pressure. BiPAP is bi-level positive airway pressure, two different levels of pressure. The chief benefit of BiPAP is the generation of PEEP in the patient's lungs. PEEP is positive end expiratory pressure. When you and I reach the end of the expiratory phase, our lungs equalize with the ambient air pressure. We're at 0 now. Introducing PEEP holds some of that pressure back in our lungs even after we reach the end of the expiratory phase. When somebody is on CPAP or BiPAP, the device helps them build up PEEP in their lungs so that they don't need to work as hard to get oxygen or CO2 exchanged through their alveoli. Pressure is measured in centimeters of water pressure. At peak inspiratory pressure, your lungs are pressurized to between 20 and 25 centimeters of water pressure. When using CPAP in the field, our protocol directs us to aim for 5 centimeters of water pressure of PEEP and then build up from there. One of the most important things to remember about PEEP is that it needs a closed system in order to work. If the patient's mask is not making a good seal over their face, or if the patient keeps removing the mask from their face, there's not going to be enough PEEP building up. The mask must remain as snug as possible over the patient's face to get the job done. When you have received the settings and attached the circuit, you need to get the vent into BiPAP mode. On the LTV-1200 BiPAP is called NPPV. It's a generic term for BiPAP to avoid trademark law. It stands for non-invasive positive pressure ventilation. To enable BiPAP, you first need to have the vent in operation mode. In the video here, I've attached a lung simulator to the vent circuit. You will not have a lung simulator when you are at the patient's bedside. Why is that relevant? Well, if the vent begins to cycle and there's no patient connected to the other end, the low pressure alarm will start to go off. This is going to complicate the setup. When you set the vent up for BiPAP, the vent must be in operation mode. Prompts appear on the display screen when you reach NPPV mode, but they will be obscured if the ventilator has detected a problem. Having the lung simulator on allows me to show you the prompts. I made a second video without the lung simulator so you can see the difference. As I was saying, once the vent is in normal operation, you can toggle the mode button to get to NPPV. When you reach NPPV, the display screen will prompt you to set IPAP. You will notice the other settings on the vent have dimmed out, except for the pressure support field. This is where you will set the IPAP value. Here's the trickiest part of BiPAP on the LTV. Let's say you were given a BiPAP setting of 15/8. Following those directions, you might plug in a 15 in this field. Makes sense, right? But look closely at the pressure support setting. See where it says centimeters of water plus PEEP. The PEEP field over here stands in for EPAP, the expiratory pressure. This calculation means that there's already some inspiratory pressure being provided by the value you have the PEEP field set to. So you will only need to set pressure support high enough to match the difference. Like I said earlier, our BiPAP setting is 15/8. If we set EPAP to 8, what number do I dial into pressure support to provide the prescribed inspiratory pressure of 15? I hope that you said 7. 7 plus 8 equals 15. Does that make sense? If it does, continue watching. If it doesn't, you need to back up and listen to this section again. This part is important. 2. If you had dialed pressure support to 15, that would have been an error. How much PEEP would be delivered then? When you factor in the EPAP value, it comes out to 23. 23 centimeters of water pressure. Earlier, I told you when we take a breath, our lungs pressurize to about 20 to 25 centimeters of water pressure at the peak of inspiration. Delivering that much PEEP can cause several complications in your patient. Because PEEP impacts intrathoracic pressure, it has all sorts of hemodynamic effects on the circulatory system. High amounts of PEEP increase alveolar dead space in the lungs. This is the air that never exits the lungs. It moves back and forth between the lower and upper airway, but never gets exchanged before the ventilatory cycle shifts. This leads to CO2 buildup in the blood. Let's not allow that. It's time to put it all together like a real response to a BiPAP request. We've got our equipment, including an extra O2 cylinder. We collect report, paperwork, and a set of baseline vitals. We collect the settings and ensure that respiratory therapy is present in case we need to put the patient back on the hospital machine. We can transfer the patient to our cot while they're still on the hospital BiPAP. Once this is done, we can hook the patient up to our heart monitor. We attach our circuit and determine if it is compatible with the patient's mask. Be certain to identify the connection point where you will be attaching your circuit. If the hospital mask is incompatible, we can use one of the CPAP masks from our stock. We turn the vent on, select New Patient, select Adult, and prepare to silence the alarm. Next, we toggle the mode button until we reach NPPV. Like I said earlier, you won't see the prompts because of the alarm message. You will notice that the other settings have dimmed out and only pressure support is lit up. Don't push the button until you have dialed it to the correct value. When you push it, the value is accepted and now PEEP is lit up. After that's been set, push the button to accept and the vent is now in NPPV mode. You're not done yet. Make sure that the oxygen concentration is set to the prescribed amount. Next, dial down the low pressure and the minute volume until it says dash dash. These limits are not necessary because the patient is conscious and breathing on their own. If you don't get rid of them, they may trigger and become a constant headache during the call. Now you may indicate to RT that you're ready to switch the patient over to your machine. This needs to be done as efficiently as possible because when the seal over the patient's face is removed, they will lose the PEEP that's keeping their lungs pressurized. If you can't quickly reestablish it, the patient may start to decompensate. Once the machine is on the patient, you need to push the silence reset button one more time to reset the vent and clear the alarm messages. Adjust the mask for patient comfort and to minimize any air leakage. Reassess vital signs and consult with RT if you have any other questions. Thanks for watching.